Welcome to the Co-Movement Gym Podcast. This week we are talking with Dave Durante. Dave is a multiple-time USA Gymnastics national champion and was part of the 2008 Beijing Olympic Team. After retiring from competition, Dave helped coach his alma mater, Stanford University, to an NCAA Team Title in 2009. And he continued to be a part of the sport through his position on the Athlete Advisory Committee with the United States Olympic Committee. Dave was a lead coach with the CrossFit Gymnastics L1 course from 2013 to 2015. He also wrote and developed the CrossFit Gymnastics Advanced Course. Dave currently is co-owner of Power Monkey Fitness and the Power Monkey Fitness Camp. The Co-Movement Gym Podcast is sponsored by Native Path Supplements, Lombardi Chiropractic, and A Dog's Day Out Doggy Daycare. Mention this podcast or use the promo code in the episode description for a nice discount on us. Dave, welcome back to the podcast, buddy. How you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, it's always a pleasure chatting with you. There's been some questions that have been floating around in my head, and I thought to reach back out to you, and I wanna rip through these today. So, recently I did a poll with our audience with the kinds of fitness training that they would like to improve upon, or exercises like that they would like to improve upon. And so I gave them three choices. The first being stability, mobility, and balance. Okay, that was group number one. Barbell training, that was group number two. Endurance training, such as run, bike, swim, that was group three. And then group number four was exercises that improve longevity. Now, by far, the winner, or the majority, was exercises that promote longevity. Okay. So, my question to you is, if you were working with a 50-year-old that wanted to increase fitness levels with a goal of living a longer, healthier life, what would your areas of focus be on with this person?
That's a really interesting question. I would say that, you mentioned 1, 2, and 3. The first category kind of falls into with a lot of gymnastics and bodyweight and calisthenic type movements, balance, stability, those type things. Then you have category B, which is more barbell work. And then you have C on the endurance side. And really 4 is, in my mind, a culmination of all of the other 3. It's not a separate category. Longevity will require some components of all of those things. And so, a recommendation around how do I improve longevity, you've been hearing a lot of talk around this lately. It's become such a hot topic. And, you have the incredible talking heads that are at the forefront of this, Dr. Peter Attias, you have the Andy Galpins. We just had Andy Galpin in our podcast, and we were talking a little bit about this. And, the two pillars, it's not going the route of just endurance training and being cardiovascular fit. And it's not just about being strong and being capable of moving your body and having enough capacity to catch yourself from falling as you age. It's really a combination of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And the metrics that Peter Attia uses that I think are really valuable that we started to incorporate are VO2 Max training around cardiovascular fitness, and then the idea of grip strength being really important, and using that as a very great starting point as a strength metric for everyone. And so, that's a very roundabout way of saying that I think cardiovascular fitness and endurance training is important, as well as building strength and maintaining strength for as long as possible. So when you send A, B, and C, I look at it as being a well-rounded plan that encompasses all 3 of those things in some capacity.
Yeah, that's I was thinking the same exact thing when I drafted that question. I was really, really curious to see if people were going to hone in on one area, or they were going to go with like the blanket answer, which was longevity, and which is the above 3 choices.
Right.
So yeah, you and I agree on that totally. Yeah, I've been reading a lot of Dr. Peter Attia. I didn't know you had Andy Galpin on. That was cool. That's a great
He's
connection.
fantastic. He's such an impressive guy in terms of his breadth of knowledge. There are so many areas where, if he's not an expert, he's working with an expert that really informs his decisions and the way that he works with athletes of all levels. I'm just very impressed with all the things that he's putting out right now.
Yeah, for sure. And for our listeners, there is no 1 or 2 exercises that increase longevity in and of themselves. Like Dave, you said it beautifully. We need all of these. We need VO2 max, right? Cardio, aerobic. We need grip strength. We need strength training. We need mobility. Like we need all of them in a balanced, component.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, you're right. That word longevity is getting tossed around a lot, and I think that unfortunately, people that don't dive deeper into it are looking for the top 3 exercises, right? Or like
Right.
like the self-help books, the top 3 tips to being happy, right? And
Mhm.
you and I know goes so much deeper than that. And so yeah, that was great. I was hoping that that's where that would go. So let's go a little bit farther from a programming perspective with fitness training. As you know, we're both in our 40s. It changes as we get older, right? And it, the components of it, the volume and whatnot. So as compared to let's say a 22-year-old compared to a 45 or 50-year-old, and let's say they're coming from similar backgrounds of athleticism, how do things change as we age with
Mhm.
fitness?
Well, I think one of the most important pieces is amount of time for recovery,
Mhm.
and the amount of time that needs to be spent on um, appreciating the value that comes along with recovery rather than thinking it's wasted time not spent in the gym. For someone that's really into like, okay, how do I get more fit? How do I, get stronger? And so much of the emphasis is put onto what you're doing in the gym on a daily basis, and less time on allowing your body to actually recover. So as you get older, that recovery period becomes even more critical. But along with that, just maybe bouncing it off of the previous question, the things that I would do, one thing I would mention there is, it's great to be able to have a well-rounded plan that has body weight, weightlifting, and, barbell work and endurance training into a strength plan when you're young, when you're old. But finding someone that's capable of incorporating those things in a really well-rounded way is not super easy. I would say that my world is very specialized. Like what I'm good at is creating plans around skill development and making sure that people are able to learn the progressions necessary for mobility work, but also as they pertain to gymnastics, calisthenics, bodyweight type things. But we have to bring in some other experts and other minds to work together to collectively be able to give someone a great plan to be able to capitalize on all 3 of those things. So I think it's really important to make sure that you're working with someone that understands how to layer in a plan that encompasses endurance training along with barbell work, along with bodyweight stuff, rather than just saying, all right, we're just going to pound these things as much as we possibly can and hope for the best at the end. There's an art and a science of being able to work well with all 3 of those things. So a 22-year-old, I think you can get away with a lot because that recovery period is so much shorter, and they're able to kind of get through things that someone in your 40s and beyond just aren't able to really sustain for as much period of time. So in my mind, as you get older, more of an emphasis needs to be put on the recovery side. You have to be more strategic with the type of training that you're putting into play, and understand what your goals are. We brought this up fairly recently too, the idea of functional movement and what exactly is a functional movement, and how it's such a nebulous phrase and it doesn't really mean anything, but it's thrown around so often these days. It's like, what is a functional movement? Functional movement in my mind is relative to whatever that person's particular goals are or whatever their livelihoods call for. Like in my mind, handstands are a part of my career, it's part of my job. And so handstands, while they might not be functional for a lot of people, they are functional for me to be able to live the life that I need. So I think it's really important when you choose exercises and when you choose plans around a particular individual, you need to recognize what type of life they have. What job are they applying their fitness on a daily basis? What activities are they doing where they're needing to have these skills kind of in place? So it's a little bit more nuanced than just saying, a general plan is going to work for everyone. That's why we're seeing so much more individualization when it comes to training plans these days.
Yeah, and that's where both of our models, you and I, thrive because a lot of it is individual, right?
Yep.
And that recovery piece, I'm glad you brought that up. So for our listeners, recovery day or period of time doesn't mean do nothing. right? It's doesn't mean we're eating poorly and we're not we're gonna sit on the couch all day. We're active. We're maybe in the sauna, we're stretching, we're foam rolling, get a massage, we're walking, we're hiking. Like we're still moving our bodies and focused on an intent of being healthy. It's just not that we're damaging our bodies in the gym or with an activity. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, there's two ends of the spectrum here. You're exactly right. Like one, you need to let the muscle recover and repair. That's part of the muscle growing process. It's part of the recovery process is you need to let the muscles actually heal from whatever stress you put on it. But yes, being able to stay active, I would say you should be doing something every day that allows you to
Mhm.
stay moving, and doing those other recovery tools are part of the equation, whether that be, contrast therapy, if that's what you're into, or if you are getting massages, or going for walks, or whatever it might be. But I would also like to mention that a big part of the population that we work with have a tendency to go overboard
Mhm.
with regards to their recovery. And they think that, you know, doing something crazy on an assault bike is an active recovery day. And so we need to be aware of, where the sweet spot is when it comes to recovery periods. Yes, we want to continue to move and let that body heal, but a workout, even if it's, something monostructural, does not necessarily mean that it's a recovery day.
Yeah. So do you see with your clientele, is it more towards trying to get them to not overtrain? Or like I know with our community, we emphasize training more because it's just who we're working with, right? Like
Mhm.
40 to 70-year olds, beginner fitness levels, right? I'm speaking generalized, like we have people all over the place, but we want them to be training 3-4 days a week, moderate levels. Like in your with who you're working with, is it more of an emphasis on like smart recovery and deloads and not overtraining?
It's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of both for sure, but I'd say a majority of it is, let's not overdo it. These
Mhm.
are people that are like, fitness is almost their life, where it's their career. It's something that they wake up and think about every day, and so we work a lot with athletes that kind of have fitness as a singular priority in their lives, and so we have to be a little bit more strategic with the. I wouldn't even say we have an hour a day with some of them. Especially some of the athletes that are still competing. Um, they're doing multiple sessions per day, and they're tackling it with different coaches who are different experts in different areas. And so we all have to kind of collaborate in ways to make sure that we're prioritizing the right things each of the day and not overdoing it. So it is
Mhm.
a mixed bag, but for the most part, especially if you get into the world of functional fitness and CrossFit, a lot of those athletes, especially early on, when you have a new Kool-Aid drinker in the CrossFit space, they have a tendency to, you know, the more stuff I throw at the wall, the better it's going to be. And you have to really reel them in. And it takes a little bit of time for people to realize that.
Yeah, yeah. More is not better in all cases.
No, no,
And
I would say in
obviously
rare cases is more better.
correct. Absolutely. You and I have learned the hard way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about our nation's health. I think it's like 70% now are overweight or obese. I don't need to go over all the statistics. You're aware of most of this, if not all of it. So, like, if you were in charge of improving our nation's health from like a policy and regulation standpoint, where would you even start to tackle what's going on today? And I know we could do, you and I, a whole podcast on just this, but
For
just from
sure.
like a 50,000-foot view, where would you start?
I love this question because maybe before we started recording, I had to be late for the podcast today because I am a dad of two young children, and this is something that's very topical for me because I see what they get exposed to on a daily basis in terms of school fitness program and school diet, and it's a little depressing to me to see what has become of our fitness programs and what's required. My 7-year-old has two 45-minute PE classes per week, and it's basically nothing. I kind of like try to ask her, what are you doing what are you doing in the class? And they run around. There's nothing really structured. They're not really training towards anything. They maybe play a couple of games. I don't even think they play real sports. It's more just like running around, free time for 45 minutes. And I think it's a huge missed opportunity. Like, I think you learn better. I think you're more focused. I think you have um, more energy when needed if you are allowed to have an outlet where fitness is a priority. I think it was much more of a priority when we were kids, and so like two things. I mean, we can, like I said, this is something I would love to chat a little bit more on, but two things that I think we could potentially do that are easy. I would love to see the presidential fitness test reincorporated, just as a standardized, not for nostalgic purposes, because I thought it was just a fun thing to be able to create a level of comparison for yourself, to be able to say, hey, did I improve? These are things I can work on. Hey, maybe we can create some plans around how to get our pull-ups to be a little bit stronger and our push work to be a little stronger and maybe a little bit more mobile. Just some general basic thing for the everyday kid to be able to kind of have as a goal, like creating a universal goal for the American kid to be able to go after. And secondarily, last year I took kind of a leap and I moved to Italy with my family, my wife and two kids, and we're working on some projects with a fitness company out there called Techno Gym. And so we moved to a little town just outside of Bologna, and I put my kids in Italian school for a number of months. And it was unbelievable, the difference on the dietary side, what they were exposed to versus the meals that I see that my kids are exposed to here. Um, they, as a country, signed into law, they're not allowed to serve anything fried. They're not allowed to have anything that's ultra processed in any of the meals. Everything is cooked daily in front of the kids. They are part of the food process with the meal times in Italy. And it was very eye-opening to me to see that the kids actually can see the part of the process rather than just consuming. And for me, I don't know if that's possible here in the US with, us being the size of a nation that we are, but I can see that it works. And I can see that the kids had such a more of an appreciation for the food. And it was the kind of meals that I would want to eat every day. So it was a little depressing to have to come back to the States after having been there for a number of months and seeing the quality of the food. So for me, if we could approach diet in more of an Italian approach, I think we'd be better. And something that is goal oriented for the kids on the fitness side, I think those will go a long way in us being able to kind of get back a little bit of what we've lost.
Yeah, I love that. It's interesting. Your answer entirely dealt with kids to change
Yeah.
the nation's health. Um, yeah, that's yeah. I've got similar answers, not with the details, but as far as starting with the kids and the schools, to make that generational shift in health from more than one person. And I believe in that wholeheartedly. Years ago, I wrote a health and PE curriculum and we implemented it in 75 schools across the US. And
Hmm.
the results were great. It was actually interesting. It wasn't the presidential fitness challenge, but we had a pre-assessment with 10 exercises, and then we did a post-assessment a semester later. And the increases in strength and overall capacity it works, right?
Hmm.
But exactly what you said in the beginning, we have a 10-year-old and I drive him to school every day. And I ask him, what special do you have today? And he says, PE, which I think is the same as your school. I think it's 2 to 3 40-minute sessions a week. And it's the same thing. We run around, we play tag, we do some warm-ups, but there's really no specifics around, and again, maybe I'm wrong, I'm not in the school there, but from what I'm feeling, around an 8-week block on strength training or an 8-week
Hmm.
block on soccer. And like, we're walking away not only with the physical component that makes sense compared to what we're learning, right, in alignment with what we're learning, but also an education component. Um, it's not really happening. And so, like I said, for a while, I was working in the schools, not for the school, but with the schools on implementing our program, and I got to see a lot of that. So yeah, you and I see eye to eye with that. The future is with changing these kids from a knowledge standpoint, a motivation standpoint, a strength standpoint. And how we do that, I think there's lots of ways to do it, but there's going to
Mhm.
need to be a lot of people that step up to the plate to make that happen.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and I think I just view it so much from the kids' perspective because they're learning about habits right now. You know what I mean? And the habits that they learn now are going to be the ones that they are going to take with them as they become adults and into their later years. And so I look at it very much as a problem that we have to address with the kids of the nation rather than trying to change the habits that are already set for the adults. Not to say that it can't be done, but I think that's a much heavier lift than working with kids.
Yeah, for sure. Some of the data that we saw with assessing thousands of kids, you appreciate this. 71% of middle schoolers cannot do one push up that we saw. Strict push up, like a real,
Hmm.
not a snake version where you blast off your knees. And then 81% couldn't do one chin up.
Hmm.
And we saw a whole host of imbalances, like a side bridge, like a side plank, left to right. The
Hmm.
side they're carrying their backpack on was like 70% stronger than their other side, and postural issues. And then we did testing with like holding an air squat, no weight, like just ass to grass squat for time. And kids tipping over and like inability to go all the way down. They had back pain. And so when I present or used to present to large numbers of superintendents and BOCES districts, I would present to them the question that if what we're seeing in seventh and eighth grade is this bad, what does it look like at 40, 50,
Sure.
60? It gets significantly worse, guaranteed.
Yep.
And so the hope lies in that we can build, stronger kids mentally and physically through better education. So, okay, cool. Yeah. And the other thing too, you had mentioned the food, and that's funny because I had these notes written down and I didn't even anticipate that answer from you. So it's going, all streamlined here. So the lunches, I know where we are, they're putting these bids out to companies that come in at the lowest price for food for the lunches, and it
Hmm.
is pure garbage. Many times visiting the school lunchrooms, I've looked at the ingredient lists on the canned goods and the fake meats and like the breads and the pizzas, and it's like 80% preservatives and artificial
Yeah.
flavors. And you and I know that's not food. There's no nutrition derived from that. They have blood sugar fluctuations, and so they can't learn in the afternoon, right? Um,
Hmm.
and so, yeah, the school lunch thing needs to change. And I don't think it needs to come at an expense to the school. It could possibly be done cheaper if they're growing their own food. And what you had mentioned in Italy, where they see how the food is being made and
Hmm.
maybe even partaking in that.
Yeah.
I think there's hope there for sure.
I mean, it is a huge area of need, and like I said, there are areas that are doing it well and show that it can be implemented, which is encouraging. But food is important in our family too. Like we cook all their lunches, and we cook at home almost every meal, and they help in the kitchen, and they're a part of the process. They come to the grocery store with us, and we do the best we can. And I'm not saying that like we're perfect at this by any means. There are many days we're just running around with our feeling like our heads are cut off, but we try to make them realize that where does it come from. We where we live in Oregon here, there are a lot of farms around. We take them to go berry picking, and we take them to go and kind of be a part of that process as much as we can. But I just want them to be understanding that their food doesn't just come out of, magically come out of a can and it's ready to go. That
Mhm.
you can make things taste amazing and understand what ingredients go into them. And they enjoy that process. Like I think if you make it fun for kids, food can be something that's interesting and something that they really become they gravitate towards rather than just consuming. If they can actually be part of the process, I think they appreciate the entire, you know, uh, process of where does it come from all the way through to what can this become on my plate, you know?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, they are fascinated by that process for sure. Native Path has been a podcast sponsor of ours since day one, and it's because our clients feel amazing using their supplements. While a lot of products on the market today contain useless fillers and incorrect dosages, Native Path holds to a higher standard. Native Path's ingredients are sourced from only the highest quality, properly combined nutrients, all while being offered at competitive prices. Use code COMO15, that's COMO 15 at checkout, and receive 15% off each order. Lombardi Chiropractic has been Co-Movement's trusted chiropractor for the last 14 years. They have worked with hundreds of our clients, and I can confidently say they have the most knowledgeable and holistic approach to care that I have ever seen. Whether you suffer from migraines, low energy, nagging pain, or just simply want to improve your overall health, I highly recommend contacting the team at Lombardi Chiropractic. Mention the Co-Movement Gym podcast and receive 50% off your initial consultation and x-rays. Here at Co-Movement, we put a lot of energy into helping you become happy, healthy, and strong. But we're not the only ones needing a good workout. That's why a dog's day out is the best place in Central New York for your pet to spend their day. Your dog will be as happy and healthy as you when you let them run, play, and socialize instead of just sitting on the couch waiting for you to come home. Give your dog the active day out that they deserve. Mention this podcast and get a free day of doggy daycare at a dog's day out. I'm curious, what does your nutrition intake look like nowadays? We hear all these buzzwords with keto and carnivore and Mediterranean diet and paleo. Like, how are you eating these days? What does your day look like?
So I'm pescatarian. I don't really eat too much meat. I'm
Mhm.
pescatarian, so I eat a good amount of fish per week. I had cut out dairy for a while during pandemic. I put it back in again, and I was having cheeses and ice cream and that kind of stuff. Like I said, we cook a lot at home, and I do most of the cooking. So I enjoy cooking. We kind of have a variety of things that we go after. This is kind of an interesting question because just recently I started doing some work with Wild Health, which is I don't know if you've heard of Wild Health. They're one of
Mm.
the new like concierge medicine companies where they're being very proactive about healthcare. This idea of kind of medicine 3.0, as Dr. Attia has kind of dubbed it, where you're being more proactive about your health. And I had my blood work done recently, and the doctor I was working with was saying, there's some things that we need to look at, and some heart issues in my family over the years. So I have to be a little bit more proactive about saturated fat type things in my diet, and some things that might lead to higher levels of certain markers that we have to be aware of when it comes to heart health. But for the most part, we do a pretty good job of cooking at home. Pescatarian diet, a lot of fruits and veggies. I'm not going to lie and say that I don't eat pasta. As an Italian, we eat a good amount of pasta. My kids absolutely love pasta. So we probably have pasta one day a week, normally on Sundays, maybe a second day if there's some leftovers. And I don't have too much sweet tooth, but I like to have an ice cream every once in a while as a dessert.
Yeah. Do you drink alcohol?
Um, I do enjoy alcohol. Yes, I wine drinker. I like cocktails, sure, but I will say that from the start of the year, my wife has been on this fitness challenge, and we really have stepped away from alcohol since the start of the year. I've probably had like 2 drinks since the start of the year total,
Mhm.
and not because I'm going to stop drinking at all. I just feel like I'm able to have the moderation of alcohol when it's in a situation where I would like to enjoy one for the purposes of just enhancing the experience. I'll have one, but it's not something that I have on a regular basis. It's not something that I have daily at all. It's in extreme moderation right now.
With the pescatarian diet or way of eating, I'll call it. I'm a big fan of that myself. The problem on my end is that access to wild caught fish at a fairly affordable price. Like, I'm in upstate
Yeah.
New York. If I lived in Alaska or a place where, because I hunt, right? So I'll shoot
Mm.
2 to 3 deer a
Hmm.
year. We raise our own meat chickens. We have laying hens for eggs. Like, So that's where we're getting, our protein from, but we don't have, unless I'm ordering it through the mail, at
Yep.
$27 a pound, which with a family of three that eats quite a bit, that would add up tremendously. Like, what is your food source, like your source of fish? How do you get it? Where do you order it from?
So fortunately, in Pacific Northwest, we actually have some really good salmon and some spots here. It is a hot spot for good fishing options. But in reality, I don't do through the mail fish service or anything like that. I just go to my purveyor here, the one that I trust the most, and we'll get whichever option is local as I can get, and whichever one they kind of rate as the most environmentally conscious. But to me, it is a cost issue too. Like I
Mhm.
don't have a crazy budget to be able to spend on the quality of the food that I would love to. The reality is, cost and finances are a dictator when it comes to which option I go with, and normally it will be the one that's the best option I have available at my grocery store here that I really like going to.
Yeah, I'm curious, what are the prices right now for, let's say, a wild caught salmon? What are you paying
Yeah.
per pound up there?
Yesterday I went and got a pound of wild caught for 18.99.
Okay, so it's very
Yep.
similar to here then. Okay, yep, yep, yep.
Yep. And that was more um king salmon. There was also coho that was more 12.99. And it's
Hmm.
odd that I know that, but I did buy both yesterday.
Hmm.
So there are some other options of salmon that aren't as high of quality that are more reasonably priced around 12.99 a pound.
My buddy Mitch lives in Colorado, and once a year he charters a boat up in Alaska, and he catches a year's worth of
Oh
fish
man.
up there, and then he has it freeze dried, and vacuum sealed, and all of that, and mailed back to Colorado. And again, I haven't added up the cost of like doing that compared to buying it at a normal retail price, but part of that's a sort of appealing because it sounds like an awesome time. you know
Absolutely. Well, I mean, just throwing it back to you on the hunting side. I mean, if you go and get a few deer at the beginning of hunting season, how long does that last you? That probably lasts you a majority of the year for you and your family, and you're able to probably save on costs. It's a great experience. It's probably very similar.
Yeah, well, the cost, yeah, there is a savings. I've run the math. It's not dramatic. And so like between your license and then paying processing, transportation, you're getting about 45 to 50 pounds of meat per deer. And my butcher bill will run about, depending if we do like a lot of jerky and specialty items, maybe 150 to 180 for that deer.
Hmm.
But that doesn't include the drive there, the drive back, picking it up,
Sure.
the $90 license fee. Like, so I don't know what it really comes out to be. Because our 100% grass fed beef here is $8 a pound. So the deer may be coming in at, $4 or $5 a pound. I do enjoy it. Obviously, it's very clean and I like doing it. So yeah, there is a little savings there, for sure. But yeah, the fish piece, we joke, I would, at our facility, we would love to eat a lot more fish. I think fish is quite possibly the number one protein source from a health component. But it's just not readily available here, at the
Yeah.
time. But
Yeah.
yeah. So let's shift gears now. Let's talk about mindset and habits. So I know you and I have both worked with many clients that are struggling maybe to see results, and they keep making negative or poor choices over and over and over, and they know the right choices to make. So how do you create change in people? Let's take a male client, 320 pounds. He knows sugar is bad for him. He knows flour is bad. He knows alcohol is bad, but they don't change their habits. They show up to sessions, they work out, they sweat, and they pay. But it's very frustrating for me. I'm 14 years in with my brand Co Movement, And when you work with individuals that fall into this category, it's frustrating on how to create that change for them because they know. And so what advice do you have, if any, for a situation like that?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and one that's not easily answered, because if it was, we wouldn't have so many of these clients go back to what they were doing prior to hitting a goal or reaching a diet weight on the scale that says, okay, now I can go back to what I was doing prior. Um, but I kind of equate it to learning a skill in gymnastics, where you can give someone like 100 cues that are all valuable, but when you hear that many things, it goes in one ear and out the other. And so to really be able to have someone make a change, I think simplicity is the best route to go, and give them one thing that they can focus on and just say, even as if it's as minimal as it can be, like, let's just see if you can, not drink soda at dinner time. All right. Have it the other meals, but let's just take it out of one of your meals. And let's see if just we can make that change. And as simple and as small as it needs to be for it to be compounded into making a secondary change and to go from there. I think anytime that we're asking someone who struggles in these areas to make enormous changes, it becomes too daunting for them to even adhere to at all.
Mm-hmm.
So the success that I've had in skill development, and I think it applies here as well, is to start with one simple thing and allow that to compound over time. Heard someone talking about that recently, about this idea of progress compounded. And I love the idea. And it falls in line with the way that we teach, with incremental gains and taking pride in that process, all the buzzwords and the buzz phrases that we use when we're learning skills. But I think the same thing applies here. So I always tried to be like, okay, give me one thing that's the low hanging fruit within your day that I know that we can adhere to for a couple of weeks, and just see if we can gain some momentum around saying we have the willpower to make that change. And if we
Mm-hmm.
can do that, hey, I guarantee you we'll be able to say there's one more layer to this that we're going to put on top of it. So to me, it's a simplicity approach where we're saying, if there's one thing, maybe we can build upon that.
Yeah, I take a similar approach with that, Dave, where I will assign what I call homework, right? And so, it may be one or two changes. And if that goes well, then we move on. But we can't keep overwhelming people with more and more tips or education or things to do when you haven't done the first thing. And if you haven't done the first thing, you're not going to do the 14th thing.
Yeah.
um, yeah. So, okay. So, yeah. All right. So, we're seeing it the same way. I was just making sure I wasn't missing anything with that. Because I heard a story the other day with very similar to what I just described to you. And I was just racking my brain, like, what could go different? Like, what other thing could happen? But I think in the end of the day, too, being all adults here, right? Like, you are choosing your own destiny, right? Like and you can be a big boy or big girl, and at some point take responsibility for yourself.
Yeah, I agree. And the one thing I would add to that is there is a power in community, and
Mm-hmm.
there is a power in being able to lean into someone that's going through something similar. So if there are opportunities for people to pair up and to track progress and to check in on each other and to have a support system as they go through, what is a very challenging, lifestyle change, it can go a long way. Not only feeling like you have someone to lean on if something does go wrong, but also to have someone to kind of check in on and say, okay, they're probably doing it, I have to do it too. there's a collective goal here that we're trying to achieve. It's not just about me as an individual. So anytime you can add a community component to it, I think it adds value.
Yeah, absolutely, 100% agree. So we had some viewer questions come in that they wanted to throw out to you. So I'm going to go through a few here now. Best advice for staying motivated when in a fitness rut.
So it almost kind of falls in line with my previous comment. trying to do it with someone. I think that goes a long way. And it doesn't have to be in person, but finding someone that has likes to work out in a similar way that you do um, will allow you to gain some motivation that doesn't have to be self-motivated. And I think self-motivation is a huge factor and it's important. But anytime you have that additional push from a partner, someone that is going through a similar rut or has been through something similar, you have the ability to get out of them a little bit more smoothly or a little bit more quickly. So I think working in groups and working with a partner can go a long way. Even if you have a close connection to your trainer, can help with that. And additionally, keep things interesting. Like try new things. Get outside and try something that you normally wouldn't have tried. I think anytime you can challenge your body in new ways, which is daunting for people, but I think it's one of the ways that we can surprise ourselves in keeping things fun, because really fitness should be fun, right? There's a phrase that they use in the CrossFit space that I really agree with, that it's the best hour of your day. It should be the most fun. It shouldn't be something you dread. It should be something that you really look forward to. And so if your fitness regimen is based around something that you dread, going to the gym and like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to do this. It's never going to be something that you adhere to or that you continue to push through when a roadblock comes into play. So I would really recommend trying to find a fitness path that you enjoy waking up to do each day. And so that just takes some exploration and trying of new things, but it should be really, to me, something you really look forward to.
Yeah, I always mention to people here that if coming to the gym is a dread, you're probably doing the wrong workouts. You're in the wrong facility. You have the wrong coach. Like your body and your mind should want to go do that action. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, mixing things up is huge. Like I know for me in the last 4 years, I've taken up swimming. I swim 1 day a week. I absolutely love it. 4 years ago, I didn't know how to swim at all. I could I could swim like a normal person that's barely surviving.
Sure.
But now I can swim a mile like quite quick for a hobby swimmer, very comfortably. So yeah, and I'm doing an open water challenge in the Adirondack Park in upstate New
Oh,
York.
amazing.
Yeah, where I'm swimming 47 lakes and I have to swim 1 mile or farther with no wetsuit and no assistance.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going on to my 31st. So I should finish this upcoming summer. But like, it goes with exactly what you had said. Keeping it fun. Like I've been in the gym, so the gym, like since I was in ninth grade. And so, there comes a point in time where, you like to mix it up, learn new things, biking, running, trail running, hiking, rucking. There's just so many options out there. And so, yeah, um, for people listening, give yourself permission to try new things. That's great, Dave. Okay, so 3 books that you currently recommend. Do you have 3 books that stand out that you would recommend to our listeners?
I'm reading a few right now. Let me see if I can find them.
Okay.
So one is just, I mean, it's definitely topical. We talked about it. I'm sure most people know, especially your listeners are pretty up to date with some of these topics, but Outlive is worth reading, Dr. Peter Attia's book. If you haven't, it's an incredible book. Maybe a little bit more information. You can kind of get overwhelmed with the amount of things that you need to be focusing on when it
Mhm.
comes to like all the things that we're talking, right? Biomarkers and different types of fitness regimens. It can be a little overwhelming, but if it is something that interests you and you want to be a little bit more in tune with some things that could be helpful, it's phenomenal. It's probably the best book out there right now with regards to just preparing your body from more of a medical standpoint. This one I'm reading now, Conscious Coaching by Brett Bartholomew. I
Mhm.
was fortunate enough to be at an event with Brett earlier this year at CrossFit Milford in Milford, Connecticut, owned by a really close friend of mine, Jason Leiden. He's one of our coaches at Power Monkey Camp, and Brett did a leadership seminar and passed me along his conscious coaching book, and it's been fantastic. It's a really good tool for coaches out there just trying to connect with their clients and their athletes a little bit more. And one that I picked up recently that's a little bit more nerdy when it comes to strength training. This was Dr. Andy Galpin's suggestion on our podcast. It's the Physiology of Resistance Training. And this is one that I've been diving into that was a suggestion by Dr. Galpin, and just another one that's helpful and interesting when it comes to putting strength plans together, and just a little bit more on the science side of it.
That's excellent. I actually have the Outlive book sitting on my dining room table in my
Yeah,
house right now.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm
My
reading.
my wife is definitely sick of me pointing out tidbits, and she's read it herself, but she's like, okay, enough with the Attia points. We get it.
Have you ever, just random question, have you ever done a true VO2 max test, like with the mouth apparatus and all of that?
I've done it a number of times. I did it in
Oh,
college as
wow.
part of one of my exercise physiology classes, just kind of, back in the day, 25 years ago. But we work with a group called XFit Lab. They're phenomenal. It's a husband and wife couple, Dr. Jamie Shear and Dr. Isaiah Robinson out of New York. I've known them for years when we were still working out of Manhattan. And they do all of our RMR and VO2 max testing at our Power Monkey camp. And
Mhm.
so I've done it on a few different apparatus. I've done it on a rower. I've done it on a runner. Um, I've also done. We have a standalone VO2 max apparatus that can be. It's not attached, so we can
Mhm.
actually do skill-based VO2 max testing. So we were testing out some things around max effort skill-based movements. So I've done VO2 max around muscle ups as well, which is kind of
Mhm.
interesting just to get some data on over the years. But I have done a variety. I haven't done one in maybe 2 years, but
Mhm.
I've done a variety over the years. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm friends with Dr. Steven Janopoulos. He's a longevity expert down in New Jersey. He's been on my
Hmm.
podcast twice, and good friend. He actually buys meat from our farm co-op and all of that. And so he's actually coming up to my gym in 3 weeks, I think it is, and he's going to do the official test on myself, two of our trainers, and then two guests. Um, we're going to be I'm doing it on the rower, and then we have a few people doing it on the treadmill, so that'll be really really cool to see where that comes in. On the rower, how did you specifically test for that?
You mean number wise or
No, no,
how I
no.
approached it?
The protocol. The protocol. What was the protocol while you were being tested? Like, was it a 2K row? Did you
No.
ramp up every minute? Like, how did it
Yeah,
go?
the ramp ups happen normally, I think, every 30 seconds, maybe every minute.
Hmm.
I did it on the rower maybe like 8 years ago, so I don't remember the exact protocol, but it is a ramping up process. And so you'll end up just trying to keep a particular stroke rate uh, until it's time to bump up, and you go for as long as you can while increasing the intensity until failure, basically.
Do you remember any of your recent scores?
My VO2 max, the last time I had it officially done, I think I had a score of 58, which
Okay.
was which is pretty good. I mean, for a
Yeah.
gymnast,
Yeah.
uh, for a gymnast who doesn't really use too much cardiovascular fitness, I was happy with a score of 58. I
Mhm.
don't know if I would be there now. My Garmin says that I am nowhere near a 58, but I don't know how accurate this one is. But I would say that I've increased my amount of cardiovascular work. One of the things that
Mhm.
we've incorporated as a Power Monkey team is we dove into the the arena of distance running.
Mhm.
And so, as a team, collective distance running, and we entered into a very popular race out here in Oregon called the Hood to Coast. It's a
Mhm.
200-mile run as a relay. And so over the course of 24, 30 hours as a group, you relay through the 200 miles. And we did it last year and we're prepping for it again this year. So I've definitely ramped up the amount of running that I've done as a gymnast. I wouldn't run more than 76 feet down the vault runway, and that would be absolutely it. So adding some actual mileage under my belt has changed a little bit over the years, but I enjoy it. It's been fun.
What's your weekly mileage right now, approximately?
Not too much because I do a lot of other things. I'd say it's probably between 10 and 15 miles per week right now.
Hmm.
So, I split them up. I did 5, 6 miles yesterday, but sometimes I don't go for a full straight. Like I did yesterday, I did it for a particular reason. We're testing out a new product here, a Cool Mitt product, which has to do with cooling the body down and recovering more quickly throughout a workout. So I did like
Hmm.
2 mile run, 3 minute rest, 2 mile run, 3 minute, 2 minute. So 3 rounds of 3 mile runs or 2 mile runs with a few minute recovery period in between. So
Hmm.
it really just depends on the day. Sometimes they're just split up a little bit differently depending on what the workout calls for.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Last listener or viewer question here. Where should a beginner start when beginning a strength training program?
Yeah, that's a question that we've been trying to answer because I think depending on which coach you ask and their specialty, they're going to tell you something different.
Hmm.
And I'm going to tell you my answer with regards to my background. Um, in the gymnastics world, I think that most people's strength plans should be based around trying to get your body capable of then exposing itself to external loads.
Yep.
So, what I mean by that is, can I move my body appropriately for the shapes that I need to create for learning higher skill development, but then also getting under a barbell and, trying to learn how to clean a bar or pick up a kettlebell appropriately and learn how to press it overhead? Do I have the mobility to be able to effectively create a stacked position? So, in my mind, we call it phase one of a
Hmm.
four-phase process when it comes to, I might have mentioned this on the last podcast in terms of our phases. But when we teach people skills, phase one is important for anyone trying to build in a strength plan. And it's about creation of body shapes. And so creating a correct body shape and one that you can apply according to the movement that you're working on requires more focus on a strong core. So everything that encompasses your midline, yes, abs and hip flexors, but also rotation and lateral work, which I think is missed out on a lot of strength plans, as well as posterior chain. So everything that encompasses the midline needs to be strong, something that you can be working on a daily basis, as well as a more mobile body, one that is not restricted by the limitations you might have from soft tissue limitations or maybe some other areas of need that need some additional attention. So if I have a mobile body and I have a strong core, I can create good shapes that then allow me to structure and layer in a good strength plan on top of that. So for me, anyone that's looking to build a good strength plan in place, it starts with good creation of body shapes. So it starts with a good foundation around what you can do with your body first.
So let's go a little farther with body shape. So I'm assuming you mean stability in different
Yes.
positions and mobility in different positions, and then you move on from there, right, Dave?
Yeah, so our phase two of the process is a lot more of where the stability is built. Our phase
Okay.
two is around static holds, controlled movement, our isometrics, our eccentrics, where we build the stability around the ranges that we've created in phase one. So
Hmm.
those can kind of go hand in hand. And it's the boring part for a lot of people. It's the part where in gymnastics, where we build the stability, the balance and the stability that we apply then to phase three, which is dynamic action.
Hmm.
So once we incorporate momentum and swinging and all of those things, we need to be able to control our body through that dynamic action. And it comes from creating good shapes and then controlling it through our phase two. So, yes, a lot of the controlling comes from our isometrics, our slowing of things down to make sure that we can control through the ranges that we've built.
Hmm. Yeah, that's excellent. Let's talk quick on the Power Monkey Fitness Camp. It might be something our listeners are interested in.
Sure.
I follow all of your content, not only on your page, but on Power Monkey Fitness, Instagram. Everything you guys are doing is always looks great. So tell our listeners
Thank you.
about the Power Monkey Fitness Camp and what it is.
Sure. So, Power Monkey Camp is my third baby. I have two little girls, and I got Power Monkey Camp, and I'm really proud of what it's become. We're starting our 11th year. We have it coming up next month. We have two camps a year. It's one in the fall, one in the spring. It's a full week-long adult fitness camp, and we bring in experts from a variety of different fields of training, from running to kettlebell to rowing to gymnastics to weightlifting to lectures around nutrition and programming and sleep optimization. We do contrast therapy. We do the VO2 Max and RMR and metabolic testing. We do yoga in the mornings. We do campfire stories and s'mores and beers at night. And diving into some of the nuance in terms of the struggles that people go on within their lives, and just understanding that no matter where you come from, everybody has an interesting story to tell. And a week long of that allows us to dive into some things that you're not able to do in a weekend seminar or a day when you go and work with an expert. So we've created something that's well beyond just an informational week, and it's more of an experience. And I think that's one of the reasons why we have so many people come back time and time again. We have a very high return camper rate. We have one camper who's amazing. She's been 14 times. Uh, she's a gym owner in Atlanta, and she's just amazing. And that's a common theme within the Power Monkey community. Our camp is in Tennessee. We have a 150-acre location out in the middle of nowhere, Tennessee, a 32-acre lake. We have 50,000 square foot of gym space across 4 gyms, where we split everybody up and put them into groups and let them work with the experts throughout the week and get some individual attention. We're adding a new component this camp. Technogym is coming on board as one of our main sponsors and bringing out their plate-loaded machines for the first time. We're trying to incorporate more muscle isolation and bodybuilding techniques into our training, which we think is extremely valuable. So we're going to have hypertrophy sessions throughout the week to go along with, some of the functional fitness type of training that we'd normally have there. We have Dave Lipson from Thunderbro and Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet, who's CrossFit champion and just an incredible person in the fitness space, both coming out to do some lectures around hypertrophy training. So I'm being long-winded here, but there's a lot that goes into Power Monkey Camp. There's a lot that we offer. We have pickleball and cornhole tournaments all week too, which has become a big hit. But it's just an amazing week. I love going back. It's a ton of work, but it's my favorite 2 weeks out of the year. And if there's a listener out there that wants more information, they can just go to powermonkeycamp.com or contact us at info@PowerMonkeyFitness or Dave@PowerMonkeyFitness, and happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, it's on my list to do, Dave. It sounds like an epic week for sure. Now, the property in Tennessee, is it at the same location every time?
Yeah, so the facility is owned by 2 Olympic gymnast friends of mine, John McCready, who was on the '96 Olympic team, and John Roethlisberger, who's 3-time Olympian, one of the all-time greats in the sport of gymnastics, one of my idols growing up. And they have it as a gymnastics camp for kids in the summer. And so I've been going to this facility for years, close to 20 years now, just helping out kids in the summer and seeing the facility. And then over a decade ago, we were like, we can probably use this space for something different in the downtimes. So they've been just so generous about allowing us to come and set up camp, and it becoming something that they're proud of too, that comes to their facility. So it's just a really special location for sure.
Oh, that's amazing. All right, final question. What's your 10-year vision with Power Monkey Fitness?
I think we have probably a 1, a 1, a 5, and a 10 vision in terms of how we try to plot things out. Um, I don't want to make it seem like Power Monkey is this, incredibly successful, great. Like, we struggle. It's hard
Mhm.
as a small business owner, as I'm sure you know.
Yep.
There are things that there are days when I wake up and I'm like, man, I think my life would probably be easier if I didn't run a business.
Mhm.
um,
Yep.
and all the struggles that come along with trying to keep our 6 full-time employees happy and motivated, and
Mhm.
um, understanding the long-term mission. And we get cloudy with that sometimes. And I don't come from a business background. I'm an athlete who turned into an aspiring better coach and an entrepreneur along the way. So I just want to make it very clear that I'm learning as we go through this, and not make it seem like I have everything figured out. Far from it. But with that being said, we really are trying to turn our Power Monkey training app into something that I think it's an incredible tool. Like, we don't do a good enough job of really showcasing the power of our training app in terms of skill development. It really is a really powerful tool. So, if you want to learn from really basic skill training all the way through more advanced gymnastics movements, we have a plan for anyone that's looking to start. So that can be found in the App Store, and we really want to build into the digital arena a little bit more. But one of the things that I'm really excited about, just because this week was a big week for us, we did sign a contract with Technogym to partner with them.
Okay.
And I can't go into too many of the details right now, but just know that we're going to be doing some really interesting things around the strength building space, incorporating what we do from an education standpoint with the incredible technology and equipment that Technogym has in place. Many American uh, fitness enthusiasts and people within the fitness space don't even know who Technogym is.
Hmm.
They are an incredible brand that does just some out of this world products. Financially, they're very, very expensive. Unfortunately, that's kind of a missing link for a lot of people. But the
Hmm.
capabilities of what they're doing, I think, is going to allow Power Monkey to kind of launch into a new stratosphere in terms of our reach.
Yeah, and that's cool. I didn't obviously know about that partnership, but I see the value in small businesses joining on, whether it's with another small business or someone larger, to combine forces and to grow into something bigger.
Yeah,
So props to you for that. Maybe we're cross that threshold when the time comes. But yeah, that's really cool, Dave. So congrats on that.
thank you. Still we still have to execute now. Once the contract is signed, but we still have to execute. But I think you're going to hear a lot more about this project once we get it off the ground. It's going to be an exciting next couple of years.
That's excellent. All right. Well, this has been great. I always love chatting with you. How can listeners learn more about the work you're doing, Power Monkey Fitness as a company, the camp, all of that?
Well, thanks, Josh. I appreciate the time as always. They're always thoughtful questions and ones that I normally don't get when I am on other podcasts. So I appreciate the thoughtfulness of everything. In terms of following along, my Instagram is just at Dave Durante. But I would recommend checking out at Power Monkey Fitness on Instagram, as well as our YouTube channel, which we're constantly putting up good content on the Power Monkey Fitness YouTube channel. Our app can be found in the App Store, Apple, as well as Android, just Power Monkey Training. And like I mentioned earlier, if you're interested in coming to camp, you can go to powermonkeyfitness.com or powermonkeycamp.com. We host other weekend events throughout the year around the world. We do about 30 of them, just weekend courses. And we also host a really high-end retreat. We're doing it in Sicily this summer. It's already sold out, but we're going to be putting up pre-registration for next summer. It's smaller groups, incredible environment right on the beach in Sicily. We'll probably be doing it for 2 weeks next year. So you can check out all that stuff on our website at powermonkeyfitness.com.
Sounds awesome. All right, Dave, thank you for your time. And it's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it.
If you enjoyed this episode, please consider supporting our sponsors, Native Path Supplements, Lombardi Chiropractic, and A Dog's Day Out Doggy Daycare. They help us bring you 2 new episodes each month and have a special discount just for our listeners. See the show notes for more details. Thank you, and see you next time on the Co Movement Gym podcast.